welcome back. Welcome to week K. Week K, we have a keyboard, a kiwi fruit, a knife, and yes, that does start with K. A kookaburra, a keyhole, and a kite. I think I got it all. So with all of our K items all drawn out, let's get into the painting. Today, I'm starting off with the keyboard, purely because it's the most bottom layer of items. The kookaburra is sitting on top, so is the knife and the kiwi fruit. So I'm starting with this instead of our character today. At the moment, I'm just laying down a titanium white colour for the ivory keys. You may have noticed that I have sketched this one out using coloured pencils rather than a lead pencil. The lead graphite pencils tend to smear a fair bit, and then I've got to go back in and clean the paper up, which is fine, but it's much easier to do it with a coloured pencil because it doesn't smudge, it doesn't make a mess of the canvas behind it. However, I did notice when I was doing the white paint that the orange pencil that I had sketched out the keys in kind of bled into the white paint. So I hadn't had that problem before with the blue that I had used in previous paintings. So I think I might just need to stick to the blue pencil. I don't know if it's something to do with the pigment of the orange, but yeah, I did notice that. It was easy fixed up with a second coat of white though, and now I'm adding in a touch of black mixed in with a fair bit of the titanium white to make this nice grey colour for some shadowing. And yeah, you probably noticed that I painted all the black keys and then I've gone over with the second coat of white and the grey straight over the top of them. And that's because it was much easier to do the gradient of the grey as a whole keyboard rather than trying to get the gradient consistent whilst painting around all of the black keys. Plus, they're black, they're much easier to paint over the top. Another thing you can see here is that I'm painting over the top of that gradient again with some more titanium white. I really wasn't happy with how the keys were turning out. Actually, I wasn't happy with it through the whole process. But I kept painting and eventually it was starting to look how I wanted it to. I sharpened up a lot of the lines, made them nice and straight and a little bit thinner because some of the shadows in between the keys were getting a little bit too thick. So I've gone over a fourth time with the titanium white and you can see that this layer is coming together much nicer. Now it's time to paint our kookaburra. I'm going to call him Kevin. I'm using titanium white and a filbert brush to get the appearance of feathers. Even though it's only the base layer, I'm laying down the white paint, turning my brush from side to side and getting a good idea of which way the feathers are laying on the kookaburra. Some of you guys might recognize this little kookaburra. He was in my It's All a Bit Cuckoo artwork that I completed before starting the Alphabet Superset challenge. So when letter K come up, I couldn't think of anything better than to do Kevin. In the painting It's All a Bit Cuckoo, Kevin had a compass on his belly. But since compass starts with C, I decided to change things up and put a keyhole there. For the yellow creamy feathers, I used yellow oxide and titanium white, and this blue is actually a pale blue. I'm base coating the feet now because I noticed I wasn't quite bringing the belly down for far enough with the fur. So putting the feet in now will give me a nice guideline as to where I need to bring the feathers down to. And I just used the same feather colours that I used earlier. And I'm going to do the same with the keyhole, just base coating it in a yellow oxide, just to keep that mapped out where I want it. There will be some feathers coming over the top of it. Using the same grey mix that I used on the keyboard, I'm adding in a few more darker feathers for when I do the last layer of feathers. These will look like they're in shadow once I do the final bits of creams and whites over the top. So I'm putting them in dark areas with natural folds around the eye, under the wing, and under the beak. You know I love doing multiple layers with fur or feathers, and it just builds up a layer by layer, which gives the viewer the impression that there's lots of full feathers there. And kookaburras have a fair bit of brown on them. Their wings are generally mainly brown and a bit of a brown stripe next to their eyes. So for this, I've just used burnt umber light. We're kind of at that ugly stage of the painting. It looks patchy and a bit juvenile, but it will come together. And now I'm going in with another layer of the light feathers, using the titanium white and that mix I used earlier with the titanium white and Titan buff. This layer will soften all of those harsh colours, but because they're so vibrant, they will shine through the white and add that depth that I was talking about earlier. I have to admit, I really enjoyed revisiting one of my old characters. It was kind of fun. I did find myself comparing my painting to my painting, which was really weird. But yeah, it was really fun to revisit something that I had painted before. Now I'm painting the keyhole and I'm going for that goldy, brassy kind of look. To get that, I've used the yellow oxide, I've used burnt umber light, a little bit of raw sienna, and then a bit of white for the highlight areas. Trying to focus on where the light would hit it and shine and where it might be a little bit darker. I had tossed up about the idea of filling in the keyhole with more K items, and I think if I was doing a major artwork, I probably would have painted another universe or something inside the keyhole, but with the 1 week time constraint, I have just done it black. Kookaburra's feet are kind of like most birds. They're bubbly and quite textured. So I went in with the darker base and then went over the top with some lighter bubbles, I guess. That way the darker base coat that I used will shine through those cracks, and it's much easier than painting all of the little cracks over the top of a light base. A few finishing touches on the feet using that burnt umber light for a glaze in the darker areas, and then going in with that light grey colour for the claws and adding the shadows and highlights on those also. It's time to do that last wing. I didn't complete it at the same time as the other wing because the other wing is tucked behind the body, meaning it needed to be done before I'd done the final layer of feathers on the kookaburra, whereas this one is kind of sitting on top of the body feathers. Taking a little minute before you start painting to plan out what is in front or behind of certain things really does make the painting process so much smoother because you're going in with a plan and you know what you need to do first and what you need to do last. It's time to do the eyes, my favorite part. I just love them. I don't know why, it just brings life to the painting, I guess. I lined the eyes with burnt umber and a touch of black. And then for the center of the eye, I'm using yellow oxide and then getting brown earth and just bringing it into the center. So that way the eye appears darker around the outside of the iris and then gets lighter towards the middle. I'm using some of that grey colour from earlier to give a little bit of detail on the inside of the eye. Just touching up a few final feathers around the eye so I can make them overlap and have it look like the eye's not sitting on top of the fur. For the ribbon around the key and the one that attaches to the kite, I'm just using Pyrrole Red to base coat that. I will go in with some shadows and some highlights after I have done the key and the kite. To paint the key, I'm using the same technique that I used on the keyhole. I want these to look like they're part of a set, like this key belongs to that keyhole. So I want them to be cohesive and to match. So I'm base coating the key in yellow oxide. Now I'm using a very small brush with a straight burnt umber light, to map out where the overlapping parts of the key will be. This will make things a lot easier when I go to do the shadows because it's already laid out for me. And thankfully this week the letter is in a place that I could not forget. It's right on the key. So I got it done nice and early. No forgetting this week. I don't usually do this, but I've decided to go over the top with a thin layer of gold. I kind of wanted that pop of metallic. Although I painted the effect of the brass and the gold, I just wanted that bit of shine. So I've done the same thing to the keyhole as well to keep it cohesive. Now it's time to paint the kiwi fruit. Now I love kiwi fruit and so do my kids. But I can honestly say I did not enjoy painting these kiwi fruits. I just couldn't get the effect that I wanted, and they ended up looking a little chunky and blocky. I think with more time, I could have made these a little bit better. Actually, with a little bit more time, I could have made these a lot better. But I'm going in with a few more little details to try to improve it. Kiwi fruit has stripes of a light white and a darker green through them, but they are very subtle. So I painted in the lines and then went over with a wash and then patted off the excess. But it didn't quite take enough off, so I've gone back in with a few little white lines and now doing the seeds. I'm now painting the knife, and somewhere along the line I forgot to hit record when I painted the handle. But it wasn't anything special, it was just a pure black paint. I undercoated the knife blade in a dark grey, and now I'm going over the top with a silver metallic to kind of keep in theme with the gold paint I done on the key and the keyhole. A few little highlights and shadows, and the knife is pretty much done. It was one of the easy bits. And onto our last K item, the kite. I wanted it to be nice and bright and add that pop of colour. I'm base coating it in a bit of Prussian blue mixed in with some white. The white will just keep it nice and bright without the tone getting too dark. And now I'm using a straight Prussian blue without any white to create a bit of a shadow where the sticks will lie. You know, the cross sticks that you get on the kites. I'm not overly happy with the kite either. I do come back and do some patterns on it. It wasn't speaking to me. But yeah, with the pattern on it, it does make it look a little bit better. Sometimes paintings just don't quite go the way that you want them to, and that's okay. It's a learning experience. I've had a bit of a stressful week, and I think because of that, it has shown in how I have felt when I've been painting. Things just didn't quite go the way that I wanted them to look. And yeah, everybody has weeks like that. I'll probably end up going back in some point in the future and doing a few little touch-ups. But it is amazing just how much your headspace or your mood or life can affect the way that you paint. And to be honest, this week I kind of had to force myself to paint, which is never a good thing. Painting is definitely something that you need to be in the mood for. But the painting as a whole at the end of it, I'm still pretty happy with it. I like my Kookaburra and I like my key. But definitely the other items, I would have painted them quite different if I'd had a little bit more time and probably not had such a full-on week. So here are the patterns that I was talking about earlier. I've tried to angle the lines different on each panel so that it gives the appearance that it's made up of 4 different sheets. Kind of keep it in theme with the juggling balls from last week. A few final touches on the key and the keyhole. I lost a little bit of the shadows when I went over with the gold, so I'm just brightening up those shadows a little bit more and making them stand out a bit. And I've come back to tackle the skin on the kiwis. The kiwi fruit has like a prickly, furry skin, so I'm getting that texture with a stipple brush, adding some light over the top, and then going back in with the darker colour. And that's it. Week K is finished. And he's done. Kevin the Kookaburra sitting on a keyboard with a knife, a kiwi fruit, a keyhole, a key, and a kite. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, and don't forget that notification bell. It really does help my channel out. It doesn't cost a thing, and you get to stay updated with every letter of the alphabet. Until next time, see ya.